Happy Wednesday, sleepers. It's playoff time. Hope your seasons have gone well. Hope some of you snuck in with a 6-7 record, and those of you that didn't make the playoffs with a 7-6, I feel for you. That happens. Or if you have the most points out of everybody, I know that that's pretty rough. Sometimes it does happen, though. I'm in a couple of leagues where I have the most points and still made the playoffs, but did not get my first round bye. So they're going to make me sing for my supper, even though I've been singing all season long. And just in the nick of time, we have Nader hopping on with us. From Top Tier Tactics Fantasy Podcast. Nader, how you doing?
Oh, I'm excited. Right when I saw your message to get on, I just zoomed in from work and I was like, you know what? I got to make this episode for you guys.
Hey, we appreciate that. Yeah, we have Steve that had something that came up last minute, and then I think it's busy season for Hoos as well. So we appreciate you hopping on, and it looks like we already have a call ready to go. So we'll jump straight to that. And I think we're just going to do it live. We're not screening. So let's see who we got, Dirty Jobs. Send them in.
Oh.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Jesus.
Yeah, what's going on, Jesus? How are those Raiders doing?
What's going on? They're there, right? I don't like that.
Yeah, no, I know. That's rough. Not quite as bad as Philly, but, they were looking pretty good after those two Chiefs. After telling the Chiefs how to play football. But so what do you got for us here?
Well, I'm in the playoffs, and I know you guys advised against the stack, but I hit big on the stack with Carr, Waller, and Ruggs.
Oh, baby.
I go Ruggs as my flex.
Yeah, that Ruggs touchdown at the end of the game, that came in pretty nice, didn't it? Especially stacked with Carr.
Yeah. So I got like 180 something points.
Oof, that'll take you to the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm getting McCaffrey back. This week's matchup is kind of tough though. That guy has Metcalf and Derrick Henry. I have Aaron Jones and McCaffrey, so I think I'll be good.
Yeah, you have two top 5 running backs this week. That's pretty solid.
Well, that's hopefully McCaffrey does come back. I mean, I guess news came out that last week he tweaked his quad, and he's not questionable.
Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah, I expect McCaffrey to play, but I mean, you never know. Now it's 2020; anything can happen at this point. What you got for us?
Well, who do I? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
All right, who do I put at flex in between Ronald Jones and David Johnson?
I mean, Ronald Jones, I expect this to be a relatively high-scoring game against Minnesota. Tampa Bay is at home. I think that I personally have to lean there with Ronald Jones, considering he's been getting it done as of late. But Nader, what are you thinking here?
Ronald Jones is a safer option. I think David Johnson could be the bigger play option because, Deshaun Watson, I believe in Deshaun Watson's ability to make plays rather than Tom Brady's ability to hand the ball off. If Deshaun Watson can get him going, especially in the passing game, the little intern coaching staff said they want to get him more involved. If that is actually going to be the case, then he should be a better play. But I mean, coaches talk is one thing, but actually doing something is another thing, especially since Bruce Arians even said he wanted to get Ronald Jones 20 touches per game, but we just haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Now, do we also believe that
I kind of want to go Johnson? But
Are we guaranteed that it's just going to be his backfield, though?
Exactly. I'm not guaranteed.
Do we know for sure that David Johnson's going to go in and just get 20-plus touches, or is it going to be them riding the hot hand here?
Duke Johnson's not necessarily a hot hand type player. If you're riding a hot hand by committee, I really think Duke Johnson lost that battle.
Agreed, but it's still something that could be annoying enough that they are still giving him some touches, and if those touches happen to be inside the red zone, it could really stifle David Johnson's day against Chicago.
Yeah, David Johnson's going against Chicago. That is, like you just said, that's a rough matchup. I'm not expecting him to do much. On the other hand, Ronald Jones is going against Minnesota. That's a pretty good matchup. So when you factor in the matchup, you're probably going to have to go Ronald Jones.
Right.
I agree.
And then quarterback, should I go? I want to just stick with Carr because I can get the stack with Waller since he's the number one option like every week. Or should I play Tannehill?
So Carr's going against Indy. I don't necessarily love that matchup, and I really do like the matchup that Tannehill has this week against Jacksonville. You really don't get a much friendlier matchup for a quarterback than Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree there. Tannehill is going to be the play.
All right, sounds good. Do you think Lazard is healthy enough to start? Because my 4 wide receivers are or 5. It's Julio Jones, DJ Chark, T. Higgins, Antonio Brown, and Lazard. Who do I start at the 3rd spot?
That is a good question. So waivers haven't cleared yet. Would Kiki QT be available?
No, it's 14 team standard league.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense for why it is not the deepest of wide receivers. So, Lucas, what do you think here? You think Lazard or T. Higgins?
I think that, there's a lot of people that believe you go with the best quarterback option. You have Lazard that's catching the ball from Rodgers. But the Bengals, they seem like they can make some things happen. We see Tyler Boyd turn nothing into something last week. I think that I'm probably going Higgins against Dallas. The Cowboys can't defend anyone. I think that Dallas is bad enough that even the Bengals with the backup quarterback with Allen can still move the ball. And Higgins to me is the best wide receiver on that team and definitely the best red zone option. So you're kind of banking on a touchdown. And between those two players, I think Higgins is the better bet for a touchdown.
He's also the healthier bet. Lazard, while he is going against Detroit and he's got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, he is already listed as questionable and continuously having limited practice time. He's not playing a full game and taking the full snap count that T. Higgins would. So I probably also agree with you on T. Higgins, just because he has more opportunities to make plays. And chances are they're going to be down, therefore passing throughout the whole game, rather than the Packers going against Detroit. They'll probably be running the clock out as much as possible.
All right, sounds good. All right, those are my questions. Thanks, guys. Hopefully I get this win and continue going on to that championship.
Absolutely. Looking forward to talking to you next week, Jesus.
There we go.
All right, man. Take it easy, guys.
See ya. Okay, Dirty Jobs, how are we looking? Do we have anyone else on the line? We have another call. Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
What's up, guys? This is Oswaldo.
Oswaldo.
I'm usually calling y'all see what's up with the who should I start. This week I got a playoff bye, so it's more about like stashing for week 15.
Sure.
I'm wondering, should I drop Booker since I won't use him, and Jacobs probably won't play this week, but next week he should be fine, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's actually a really good question. So sometimes playing keep away is better than kind of just holding onto a running back that you're probably not going to start. Say you drop him because you don't need him, which is true. You're on a bye. Somebody else might pick him up, and somebody else might use him and elevate their team a little bit higher. And hey, say Josh Jacobs does miss the other week. I mean, we expect him to potentially play, but we're not sure. If they already say he's doubtful this early into the week, then chances are it's going to linger into next week. So do you want to risk that chance? Is what I'm saying. If you see Booker in another guy's lineup, are you threatened by it?
Kind of not really. I played Booker and he only got me 5 points this last week, which I had. I mean, I got running back depth. If that, I'm not. I played Dobbins. He did pretty good against Dallas. My other running backs, James Robinson, David Johnson, Clyde, Jamal Williams.
So the question there is, if you were to drop Booker, I don't. Booker's, he got 16 rushes last week, which was quite a few. He got a lot of touches, but he didn't do a whole lot with those for you. And this week he's going up against Indy, so he's probably not somebody that you would love to use. Jacobs did miss another day of practice today. They play the Chargers next week, and the real question is, if you drop Booker, who are you going to pick up? Who is sitting there? Is there a guy that is sitting there that you need to have on your team, or are you just dropping Booker, just because you're trying to turn?
I'm trying to play keep away.
Okay.
Actually, I'm trying to get the Cleveland Browns, and then another defense. I've been holding on to the Dolphins defense for like 3 weeks straight. And they've been getting as much points as as a running back.
That's right. So obviously they play Kansas City this week, which isn't great. But then they play New England and they play the Raiders. You're probably not going to want to start them against Kansas City, and against New England they could. It's a division game. They always play New England well, so probably not a terrible play there. And the Browns have been looking pretty good. And let's see, they're playing Baltimore this week, and then they play the Giants the following week. So, obviously you probably don't want to start them against Baltimore, but the next 2 weeks, Giants and the Jets, those aren't terrible. It's not a terrible start. So if you were wanting to keep them away from somebody else, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, at this point, you have a bye week.
Those weeks.
Sorry, go ahead. I spoke over you for a second.
I got this week off, right? So I'm just trying to look, for my potential matchups.
Because right now you have a bye week. Therefore, your team's probably better than a majority of teams. So right now you're not necessarily worried about other teams. You're kind of worried about yourself, and you want to give yourself the best matchups possible. And right now you're thinking of week 15, not this week, the week after that. So you want to look at those matchups, and say if you have to drop somebody to ensure you give yourself a good matchup when you do play against somebody, at that point you go ahead and do it. You're not worried about anybody else at this point. You're top of the standing because you're the top dog. Everybody else is worried about you at this point. So you want to make sure you give yourself the best opportunity to win.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do so far. I picked up Kittle. He's on my IR just in case if he does play. He might not, but who knows? I did drop Antonio Brown for Deebo Samuel. Is that a good move? Or
I'm going to say, yeah. He's the best receiver on the team.
Okay. I just for potential week 15 against Dallas. Dallas can't stop nobody.
Exactly. They can't stop a nosebleed. They're not going to stop Deebo Samuel.
Okay. So I think so. If I was to pick up the Browns defense and drop Miami, I should be good, right?
Lucas, what do you think on this one?
Miami is the second highest scoring defense on the season, only to be beaten by Pittsburgh. They have the Chiefs this week. That week, they play New England and the Raiders. If it were me, especially given that it sounds like you're playing in a Yahoo league where defenses are scoring as much as running backs, like you said, I'm not wanting to throw Miami's defense out there. That's definitely one that I don't want to give to anybody else during the playoffs.
So you want to hold both?
I would.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. You should hold both.
That's what I was thinking about. That's the reason why I was thinking about dropping Booker and just holding on to Miami, but picking up the Browns defense just in case someone uses them against me,
At that point, I think that's your best to play.
I think so as well because, Jacobs may not play this week, but pretty good chance that he's going to play the following week. And it sounds like he's not somebody that you would use regardless. And he's really not getting every single touch on that team. They were rotating 3 different running backs in, and you saw that he didn't get into the end zone. So that's really something that you're worried about there. I think I would definitely take the 2 defenses because those will be the spots that people are looking, and to be looking ahead is very smart.
Yeah, and the Raiders even picked up another RB.
Waller had a freaking monster day.
Waller's always going to get his. He's Carr's favorite target. I mean, chances are he might not get the 2 touchdowns and the 150 yards, but he's going to get his no matter what.
For sure. All right, guys. Well, appreciate it. I'll see y'all next week.
Yeah, hopefully your team stays healthy.
Good luck, Oswaldo.
All right, man. Thanks.
Okay, Dirty Jobs, how are we looking? Are we clear? Okay. So, Nader, why don't we, while we have these clear, do we have anything on Mixler right now, Mike?
We got a couple questions in the comments section.
Okay. Nader, do you want to read those off?
Alrighty, so PPR from Dana. So PPR Cooper Kupp against New England tomorrow, Thursday night, or Chris Godwin against Minnesota.
That's a pretty tough one, and I think that I would probably go Godwin here against Minnesota. Should be a high-scoring game. Minnesota's secondary is awful. Cooper Kupp could have a decent game, but New England's pretty notorious for shutting down 1 or 2 players, and I think Kupp is probably the player that they would key on tomorrow, and then try to force Goff to throw it elsewhere and take away his favorite target. What do you think, Nader?
Is Godwin playing? I think he just had surgery yesterday.
Let's check that.
He had, doing just a quick search, he had pins removed in his finger just yesterday, I believe.
I think he's...
So, yeah, he did have surgery. And, I mean, hopefully you have multiple spots, but I think you might have to go the safe route and just play Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I mean, it looks...
He had pins removed in your finger. Like, what kind of pins are we talking about here? Like thumbtacks?
Well, he was playing with those pins in, right?
Yes.
So he's been playing with that. So I think he's good to go. They're saying that the DNP isn't a concern for his week 14 availability. And we saw Brady targeting him even when he had all of that extra rap, and he was still coming down with contested catches. So I'm not too worried about it, and they don't sound like they're that worried about it either.
God, he had 10 pins in his finger. He had 10 pins in his finger removed. That looks so, oh my God. I'm like looking at my index finger right now and imagining like 10 pins in there. That's kind of disgusting. Never mind.
It sounds pretty painful. But, Tampa's really every it's kind of cliche to say, oh, this is a must-win game, but really going forward, Tampa is struggling, and they need all of these wins. And I think this is a big spot for all of the wide receivers to really have a chance to go off. And I think that we've seen that Godwin, Evans, and Brown are all able to get targets in the same game. So I think that I still have to give the edge to Godwin, unless later in the week that comes out, more information comes out and says that he's having trouble catching the ball.
He won't. Bruce Arians has said he's not touching the practice drill till Friday. He does expect him to play. So, I mean, that definitely eases my concern a little bit. I mean, Cooper Kupp, he's difficult to bench in his own, but he's going against the Patriots. He's probably going to see a healthy dose of Stephon Gilmore. And even if he doesn't, they have elite corners on any side of that field. I expect him to actually have a lower to a struggling type day. I'm going to have to agree with you. Godwin's going to have to be the guy to go to.
Yeah, and Belichick, being such the smart coach that he is very good at exploiting weaknesses of other players, and Goff has a lot of weaknesses. And if you blitz Goff and you get in his face, he makes a lot of mistakes. He has a lot of turnovers. So I think that Belichick will be in his face the entire game, and I'm not sure if I expect. I still have some expectation for Cooper Kupp, but I just think that Godwin's really in a spot that he can have a big game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has touchdown upside. Cooper Kupp, I'm not seeing too much touchdown upside in him, so I'd rather go the other way.
Okay. Mike, what do we have next?
So we got, let's see, PPR, Hawkinson or Hunter Henry this week and rest of the season.
So Hawkinson, Green Bay hasn't been letting up a ton to the tight end, but Hawkinson is really starting to come into his own right, and not quite be what I'm going to call elite yet, but I think he's on his way there. Hunter Henry has a lot better spot this particular week. Fantasy Pros has Hawkinson at 3 and Hunter Henry at 5, but Atlanta's a much better matchup. So I think that I would probably go with Hunter Henry this week, but rest of season, I think Hawkinson is the better play. I'm just kind of pulling up their schedules here. Nader, off the top of your head, what do you think here?
I agree. I'm going to put Hawkinson in this week, but at the same time, I believe the Chargers will play the Raiders and the Broncos the following weeks. That might be some very good matchups in itself for Hunter Henry. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you'd probably want to roster both of them, because dropping one will result in an immediate pickup by an opposing player. So, I mean, you're going to roster probably both of them. But right now, Hunter Henry's looking good.
Well, the thing about this to me is they're both good enough, and the matchups are both good enough for the rest of the season that whichever one you don't start at tight end is flexible, is 100% flex worthy.
Oh, would you do that? I
mean, Hunter Henry and PPR the last, he didn't have a great game against New England, but nobody did on the Chargers. They didn't put up a single point on the scoreboard. But the 3 games before that, he's getting 7 targets a game. He's getting 4 catches, not a ton of yards, 30 to 50 yards usually, but he's getting in the end zone. So he's getting it done there.
But right now, this player has Justin Jefferson in their flex. Would you start either of them over Justin Jefferson?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And
these guys are both great tight ends, and it's not a bad option to start either one of them. It's just going to be who happens to get that touchdown. And right now, I like Hunter Henry a little bit more. I think he has more touchdown upside with that offense.
I do too. And Hawkinson, he's been putting up the yards, so he's kind of been more like a wide receiver. But in the last 5 games, last 4 games, he hasn't gotten the end zone. But he's still been getting it done with yards, so he's been making it up there. But I just don't expect Detroit to move the ball very well against Green Bay. And that's why I like Hunter Henry a little bit more this week. But then going forward, I think that I would jump back over to Hawkinson, especially against Tennessee next week.
I don't blame you there. I think that is also a good choice. So PPR, drop Devin Singletary, Hayden Hurst, or Jonnu Smith for Noah Fant, Tunyon, or Burton. Would you? Well, that's the first part of the question. We'll answer that, and then we'll go to the second part afterwards.
I think that I'm probably dropping Hayden Hurst for Noah Fant.
Noah Fant. Yes, I'm going to agree with you there. Hayden Hurst was put in a very good position to be a very good tight end. It's been immensely disappointing. I'd have to go with Noah Fant with you on that one.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst just really hasn't been doing much for you since the bye. I know he was kind of on a little bit of a hot streak with how much he was getting used, but since then he hasn't done much. Now, granted, they've played New Orleans twice in that span, which is very, it just seems to be a very tough spot. But I do like the talent of Noah Fant more. So I think I would go there. And then the second part of that question, would you play Ayuk or Beasley over Cooper Kupp?
That's a good question. So Beasley goes against Pittsburgh. That is a difficult matchup, but so far Beasley has been producing at a top rate, wide receiver 2 rate for that matter. Brandon Ayuk, he's just a very talented receiver in a very good system, a very good Shanahan system, and you got to believe in a receiver in that system. But the quarterback play for Buffalo has been phenomenal right now. I think I'd have to go Beasley.
It's a pretty good spot. Ayuk came off a 9-target, 95-yard, and 1 touchdown game against Buffalo this last week. They're getting ready to go up against Washington. Washington has a really solid defense. I'm not sure that you can go wrong with Ayuk here. Now, she did say it was PPR, right?
Yes, it is PPR.
And I'm just checking one other thing. Is John Brown coming back this week, or is he still out?
I believe he is still on the IR.
And yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to not go Beasley with the immense amount of targets that he's getting. He had 11 this last week, came down with 9 of them, had 130 yards in the touchdown. Pittsburgh has been very good on defense, but I think that they are beatable. There are holes that can be exposed. And I think that we're starting to see that. So, and like you said, one of the other things against Pittsburgh, if you remember back when they were playing Baltimore, RG3 was running all over them, and then they had to respect the run there. And I'm guessing that the Bills coaching staff is going to be smart enough to see that they have an even better rushing talent than what RG3 is, and Josh Allen, which should hopefully allow him to throw some on the run and open up the playbook a little bit more that when other teams have not been able to do. That. So I'm going to agree with you here. Long way around me saying I think Cole Beasley should be a pretty good play.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Josh Allen is just as good running talent and a tenfold passing talent compared to RG3. I'm definitely going to rely on him and start Cole Beasley. In fact, in a league, I am stacking Josh Allen and Cole Beasley. I did that last week, and against the Niners, unfortunately, it put up a lot of points.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Black Mamba, in a PPR, I secured a Week 14 bye. Congratulations. And needed an RB2 help. With Swift being unhealthy, correct? Which RB is worth picking up for the playoffs, and how much fab? Currently, I have 17. T.Y. Johnson, Peyton Barber, Edo Smith, Jeff Wilson, Sony Michel, or Jonathan Wilkins. Okay, 17 fab. That's questionable at this point. Where would you go?
I think I like Ty Johnson. He looked pretty solid. There was a high expectation for him to do well. He was a rookie last year, right? And he was drafted by Detroit, and they really thought that he was going to be the guy going forward. And I don't think that they really ever gave him the chance to do that. But he did, and I know it's the Jets, and he's there's limited upside there. But I think if Frank Gore is out again, which is it looking like he's trending that way?
I believe he's still in concussion protocol.
Frank Gore concussion has been ruled out for this week 13. So it doesn't look like there's
no news as of right now from what I am seeing.
Yeah, so not a whole lot. So you're kind of, I'm just looking up a few of these what the latest is. Do we know what the latest is on Gibson?
He has a toe sprain. And if I know toe sprains correctly, he's going to be out at least this week and maybe even longer. Turf toe, I believe, is a technical term. I mean, this took Patrick Willis's career out.
Yeah.
I don't think he's back for most of the season, if the season.
So Edo, what are you going to do in a shared backfield there? It doesn't seem like any of those running backs are just going to run away with the job. Jeff Wilson, that's a 4-headed monster there with everyone now being healthy. They have Tevin Coleman back. Mostert's clearly the lead guy. Wilkins, you're kind of just playing the guessing game with Indianapolis, and any given week, any of those 3 guys could pull up as a top 3 running back on the week, and then the others could put up a goose egg. Sony, it's trying to predict the New England running backfield on who's going to get those touches. We're kind of looking at very similar situations between all of these. So to me, it's going to be between Ty Johnson and Peyton Barber. But you've secured the Week 14 bye, so Peyton, there's really no guarantee what's going to happen a couple weeks from now. They play Seattle in Week 15. I don't know if that's a great spot. I think Seattle's been doing pretty well against the run. And I think Ty Johnson's probably the most. What do you think, Nader?
If he secured a Week 14 bye and Frank Gore is ruled out this week, well, it doesn't necessarily help you right now because, well, then you have him for a bye week. So I don't think it helps you too much. Peyton Barber, I think he has the most value, considering I do not personally expect Gibson to be back in the next 2 weeks. So I think he provides you the most starting value. Ito Smith, I mean, he's sharing the three-headed backfield with Gurley and Brian Hill, and none of the three look very great. And if you're not that great and in a backfield, it doesn't necessarily matter. And like you said, Jeff Wilson, Sony, and Wilkins, all three of them, they're all just sharing spots, and you're hoping for a touchdown out of either one of them.
Yep. So how much would you spend on paper on Peyton Barber rather if you had 17 left?
Right now it's use it or lose it. I'd put all 17 on it, honestly.
You heard it here. 17 going at it. And
at this point, you got to go all in.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you go all in.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that.
Goff has a weakness. Lucas Wayne.
Cam Akers, you pick him up.
Ooh, yeah. Oswaldo, Andre, your thoughts on Cam Akers? Currently sitting on the waiver. You got to pick him up at this point. He looks like the lead head in a three-headed backfield and he could
run away with it.
Yeah, which it looks like he may run away with it.
He could be a playoff winner.
Yes. I mean, McVay, you're going to get at least 20 touches if you're the lead back. Probably a touchdown. Looking good there. Should I drop Madison for Abdullah? I am the Cook owner. Oh, that's a good question.
No, I don't think I would.
Would you hold both of the handcuffs?
I mean, if it's a deep enough bench, maybe just to secure that backfield that is going to be valuable, potentially. But I don't know. I don't know if you can afford to hold three people from that backfield. I think I would choose the one that you think is most likely to take over the work if Cook were to go out. And so the question is, do you think that's Madison or do you think it's Abdullah?
I think I have to go Madison. We've seen Abdullah and what he can do. And it's not that great. I mean, Madison, he had one shot to take the lead role this year, and he kind of threw up a stinker for everybody. So I know that leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth, but I still think he's the better back out of the two.
And we have previous information on him. He's been able to take over that backfield and look pretty good with it.
Mm-hmm. There we go. We're just going back to Goff has a weakness, and my weakness is Lucas. True.
Jason, you're my weakness, buddy.
There we go. A better stash, Josh Whedon. Better stash for Dynasty to see how it shakes out next year. Ty Johnson, or I'm guessing this is going to be a Sullivan Ahmed. And neither. How about that? Because right now, LaMichael P. Ryan is the running back for the Jets next year, but he's on the IR right now, and he was their third-round draft pick. So I doubt Ty Johnson is going to overtake LaMichael P. Ryan and Sullivan Ahmed. I mean, he's an undrafted free agent who's been playing good, but that's going to be Myles Gaskin's backfield.
Yep. But if you had to choose one,
Sullivan Ahmed, just because of the team is better and the Jets are going to be rebuilding. So if somebody takes the backfield, for the Dolphins, then they have a much better landing spot. I'd go with Ahmed.
All right.
Dana, once again, do you trust Pittsburgh versus Buffalo? Or would you go Cleveland versus Baltimore? Or Carolina versus Denver? Or Houston versus Chicago? Or San Fran for Washington?
Wow. So I can't trust Houston's defense for anything.
Yeah, I'm eliminating them.
Carolina could be a sneaky play.
I agree. They put up 19 points back to back in Yahoo leagues.
So I think probably Carolina would be where I'd be looking right now. San Francisco, I think that they're beatable, so you can't really go there. Cleveland versus Baltimore. I mean, anything can happen with that division in those games, but I wouldn't put my money on Cleveland's defense having a big points game. They could potentially limit how much Baltimore scores, and it could be a low-scoring affair, but that doesn't really do a whole lot for you in fantasy. Pittsburgh, they're the number one defense, so I know Buffalo's looking really good. Pittsburgh still has a tendency to make plays to keep you in it and get some points. I think that I'm probably going to go Carolina.
If you're holding Pittsburgh defense, then you should probably hold them for this matchup. Carolina versus Denver seems like a very safe bet. I don't think Denver's going to put up too many points to take away from you, but I still think they're going to get a sack and potentially an interception to really bolster your points. San Fran, I mean, this is a revenge game for Alex Smith. You have to think about it. The Niners drafted him. I think he's going to go all out. I am not starting San Francisco's defense. A bunch of Carolina defenses on COVID protocol. Yes, that might be true. I think they'll be all right for game time. Of course, that's going to be a situation to monitor, but I would still hold Carolina's defense just in case they get cleared. Jason Watson, I can't quit you. True. Black Mamba 24. Which two defenses have the best matchups for the playoffs? Bills, Patriots, Colts, or Giants? Off the top of my head, I would like to look at the Giants playoffs.
So Buffalo has Denver, New England, and Miami. Pittsburgh, Denver, New England. So not great against Pittsburgh, but week 15, pretty decent against Denver, Patriots, and Colts.
The Giants, they will be playing this week. The Cardinals, I'm not starting the Giants defense there. The Browns after that, not starting the Giants defense. And then, which would be championship week for most people against the Ravens. Yeah, I wouldn't start them against that either. I'm going to have to cancel out the Giants defense. The
Colts have Vegas, Houston, and Pittsburgh. I don't really know that I love that. I mean, they the Houston game week 15 could go either way. So I don't love the Colts. And so that leaves the Patriots. So I like the Bills week 15, and then we have the Patriots, who they're playing the Rams, Miami. None of these teams have very good playoff runs, I have to be honest. The Patriots have the Rams, the Dolphins, and Buffalo.
Yeah, these three teams have rough matchups. I'd probably look elsewhere, but to completely answer the question, I'm going to have to pick the two best defenses, which is the Patriots and the Colts. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, don't love any of those options.
PPR, drop Ertz for Logan or McKissick.
I mean, Logan has looked pretty good. I'm curious who the other tight end is going to be there, because if he's dropping Ertz, Logan could very well be better than whoever he's using.
Which is true, but McKissick had 9 catches and currently owns 24% of Alex Smith's target share. That's pretty good, especially in a PPR format.
Yeah.
It also depends on his running back situation. If he has good running backs, then maybe you want to go Logan Thomas to secure up your tight end position. But he has Jordan Reed. Yeah, that's tough. because I mean that's definitely an upgrade. Logan Thomas is definitely an upgrade over Jordan Reed, but at the same time, letting go of a running back or potentially getting a running back is also difficult. What do you think about this, Lucas?
Yeah, I was just looking to see what the timeline was for Kittle. That says that they're optimistic that he'll be back this season for whatever that means, but I wouldn't expect him back for the fantasy playoffs. So Reed will still be around. I think it would be Logan Thomas for me. I think I would take Logan Thomas and start Logan Thomas weekly. That's it's such a big showing to go 9-9 against Pittsburgh and get those yards in the touchdown, and it's really starting to look like he's the safety valve along with McKissick, of course, for Alex Smith. But I do like what I've seen out of Logan Thomas.
Yeah, Alex Smith loves tight ends, and he really likes running backs. And I mean, he's made a career out of Vernon Davis, and he's made a career out of dumping it off to Frank Gore. So I definitely don't blame you for wanting to secure up your tight end position. But I'm gonna have to say, pick up McKissick. No, you want Logan Thomas. I know you do, Lucas.
Hey, no, I'm okay with both. I just know that I've been playing fantasy long enough, and putting my chips on Jordan Reed generally have not worked out in the past.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's not even technically the starting tight end for the Niners. That's still Ross Dwelly's job. But
McKissick has wide receiver eligibility on the Sleeper app, so that's pretty sneaky there.
That is sneaky. But would you do it?
If I needed it, sure. I mean, it's you're just giving yourself more options, right?
Yes, you are. You're definitely giving yourself a whole lot of options. Let's see, RBs are McCaffrey, Eckler, Connor. Yeah, you don't need it. You don't need a running back. You're picking up Logan Thomas. Oh, there we go. That's nice information there. So Jaws Whedon is asking, is Miles Sanders playable in a fantasy playoffs? Oh, the Eagles are going against the Saints this week. Tough to start. Cardinals the week after that, and then the Cowboys, and then Washington football team. But that is week 17. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to say that you don't want to start him at all against the Saints. Now, Miles Sanders is good enough. He is quick enough that if all it takes is one hole and he can take it to the house. So he is startable. I don't want to against the Saints. I think that against Arizona and Dallas are both pretty decent starts.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to hold them away this week against the Saints, considering the last 100-yard rusher was in 2017, and it was Samaje Perine that happened to get it when he was on the Redskins. So betting on
a big game.
Betting on Miles Sanders to get you something, I'm gonna have to say no, that won't happen. But I mean, against the Cardinals and the Cowboys, yeah, I'd put him in, no problem. Keep, cut, trade. Hoos, Mike D, Adam.
We got three keepers here. I'm not sure I can make any cuts.
I'm cutting all three.
No, I might have to cut Hoos. He ignored me tonight. He didn't let me know that he was going to be here. So Hoos, you're on the cutting block. Mike D, Dirty Jobs. He showed up. He showed up hot tonight. So I think we gotta retain Mike and Fearless Adam. That guy has a lot of value. So Adam, I'm sorry, but I need some money. All right. I think I could trade you for several draft picks. So I might have to trade you away.
A lot of people are lost right now, but it's okay.
So these are all Sleeper Wire. This is all parts of the Sleeper Wire family.
Yeah, this is the staff. Let's see. Mini Jordan, PPR, Jonnu or Goddard? I'm going to have to say Goddard on that one. Jonnu, he's disappointed me way too many times for him to start.
I think Goddard as well.
Yeah. Let's see. Minimal impact. I have Matt Ryan and Tua in Dynasty. Single QB league. Would you rather add Trubisky or Hurts? I'm number one going into the league despite QB options. Yeah, Hurts, no problem. And Trubisky.
Yeah, Hurts.
If he's not even going to be on the Bears next year, then chances are he's going to be a backup role or fighting for a starting role. Hurts, he looks like he has a starting job potentially, or he has the best chance to become a starter. I'm going to have to go there.
I agree.
There we go. Keep, cut, trade. Jason, some more sleeper wire staff. Cut, George, or Fallon.
I'm cutting this question and plead the fifth, and moving on to the next.
Alrighty. So while we allow the questions to pile on, who has been, Lucas, I'd like to know, who has been the biggest surprise player in fantasy for you?
I mean, the biggest surprise player has to be James Robinson, and I didn't get a lot of shares of him. I had several shares of Raquel Armstead.
Yep, I agree there.
And just wasn't smart enough to go and snag up Robinson. But then again, I didn't think that COVID was going to keep Raquel Armstead out the entire season. I think he's the only player that's been kept out the entirety of the season that planned on playing. So that was a big swing and a miss there. Could definitely admit that. DK Metcalf has been sneaky good for me. I never understood the hate that he had coming into the NFL. People talked about his route running, but the guy is a freak of nature. He was just going to be a transcendent talent in this league. And he has the measurables. He has things that can't be coached, and the rest can be coached. And he went to a good place, getting ready. Being able to work with Russ had to be a godsend for him and the team. So he's had an absolute huge year. But him and Josh Allen, those have been two of my stalwarts. Right. What about you? Who have been a couple that have let you down, and a couple that are taking you to the playoffs?
So I had Josh Allen ranked QB5 going into the year. I was super high on him. I went for him in as many leagues as possible. Yep. Luckily, it has panned out pretty good. I think Stephon Diggs, honestly, has been a much better than what I anticipated. I mean, going into this year, Josh Allen actually had statistically the worst deep ball in the NFL. And especially since he was touted as a deep ball thrower, I was kind of going for all the rushing touchdown upside that he has, considering he did that so well when I was going into it. But now Josh Allen, of course, elevated his game a little bit, and a lot of people were down on Diggs this year, even including myself. I was down on Diggs, and I avoided him in as many leagues as possible. But I mean, he's burned me me while I go against him.
Doesn't that hurt the worst?
Yeah, that one hurt. I mean, because I usually have Josh Allen. So, I mean, when he throw Stephon Diggs that touchdown, not only did it cancel each other out, but he would get more points off yards and the catch.
Absolutely. So who would you say has been the best waiver wire pickup for you this year?
Let's see. I think Justin Herbert has to be a pretty good mention, considering he's been, playing lights out other than against the Patriots last week. A huge waiver wire pickup. I mean, if you want to talk most recently, Cole Beasley to Kiki QT has been huge, of course, but that was just only recently. Throughout the whole year, I would have to say, let's see, Pittsburgh defense was already, it was actually a pickup that I had to spend some fab on over the year. I think that was huge for me. Do you have anybody on your list?
So Myles Gaskin in PPR leagues has been huge.
That's a good one. Yes, that is huge.
So loved that one. Jamison Crowder is somebody that I was kind of sneaky high on early in the season. And whenever Sam Darnold is in, he does very well. When Sam Darnold goes out and Flacco comes in, the target becomes Perriman there. But Crowder has done very well for me. And another one has been Corey Davis.
Oh, yes, yes.
Tannehill came on strong in the second half of last year, and a lot of people were down on him saying, it's a run-first team, and, he's not going to be able to repeat the efficiency numbers that he had from last year, on top of the fact that they're not going to be throwing the ball very much. We just don't see it. And with the addition of A.J. Brown and having one of the better O-lines in the NFL, you had to figure that there was going to be some production there in the wide receiver corps, and both AJ Brown and especially Corey Davis as of late have been, people still don't want to admit it, even though that Corey Davis is a top 6 wide receiver over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
I think people have just been burned by him so many times that they're just gonna like discard him as of now, because he'll have a good game and then people will hype on the hype train, and then he'll drop a straight donut, and then people kind of got tired of it. He basically is the MVS for the Titans, considering MVS was known for doing that. He'll have a monster game. Everybody will find to say he is the next target for Aaron Rodgers, and then he'll drop a donut, and then everyone will drop him, and then it was just a rinse and repeat cycle. Joss Whedon says, I had Armstead in 2/3 of my Dino teams. He had me missing on Robinson too. My belief was in Quell, and he had me not even scouting the new kid. I might have been late to the news as well. I mean, I'm going to have to agree. I did the same thing because I always said, Rakeem Armstead, when he comes back, he's going to have this.
He's the guy.
Role. So, I mean, yes, I just thought, okay, it doesn't necessarily matter.
Robinson went to I just remember going and watching right after they traded Fournette. I remember going and watching any and all tape that I could find on the other 3 running backs that were on the team. And James Robinson, he had like 2 highlight reels on YouTube, and they were like very fuzzy, blurry videos because he wasn't playing for a big team, so there just wasn't a whole lot out there for him. And I was like, well, okay, so clearly this is kind of just a guy, right, that they just have there for depth. And Raquel Armstead seems to be who they're looking at. And Raquel Armstead kind of reminded me a little bit when I was looking at him of like a Ronald Jones type. Didn't seem like he was somebody that had a ton of agility. He seemed like a one-step player that had a really fast 40 time and so hands. But I thought that with enough work that he would bust some runs and get to the end zone. So I was pretty excited to get him relatively cheap early on and get the free RB2 out of it, or whatever he might end up being.
Yeah, and I had the same logic as you, and I thought I was a genius for it. I was like, I just snagged a free RB when they traded Fournette. And you also have to think there was still a Devin Ozigbo who was even higher than him. Yeah, he was number 2 on the depth chart. So when people are picking up James Robinson, I just sat there. I'm like, okay, this is just kind of like people just picking at scraps. Yeah, they're just trying to get, hopeful for a miracle to get that RB. I mean, it turns out, I guess they got lucky and they got a little bit.
The definition of a lottery ticket in terms of fantasy football.
Oh yeah, yes. I mean, a couple years ago, when Lev Bell held out, I picked up James Conner as a joke to make fun of the
Bell owner.
The Bell owner, and that was my lottery ticket to the championship. As a joke, I picked him up, and I was going to hold him, just to make fun of it. Like, oh, what if Lev Bell holds out? And then I have myself a free RB1, and I mean that ended up happening, and I guess that is this year's for everybody.
Yep. Yeah, I have a pretty painful memory of being the Bell owner and then dropping James Conner because I dropped James Conner before he played his first game because I had Conner and Jalen Samuels, and I was I just thought Samuels was going to be the guy, and I had both. It was like, I can't hold all 3 of these. Had another injury, and I went and picked up like Wilkins or one of the Colts running backs because there's sort of big news coming out that like at the time, there's going to be a shift. And so I thought I was getting the starting running back for the Colts behind a good O-line. And then I regretted that one very quickly. And then of course, Bell never came back, and I didn't have James Conner for the season.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, when it comes to picking up backup running backs, it really is a lottery ticket type pick. I mean, sometimes you can't necessarily predict that type of stuff, no matter how much analytic help you have. Sometimes a lottery ticket is just a lottery ticket, and that's why it's named that for a good reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Dana asks, PPR, Gallman, David Johnson, Gio Bernard, Edmonds, I'm guessing Chase Edmonds, Melvin Gordon, Damian Harris, or Latavius Murray. So should we assume that one of them is going to be a flex? So we should pick 3, or should we pick 2?
Let's go ahead and we'll just rank them in order. Pick your
Okay.
top 3 in order. And I think that Gallman has been very good, so it's difficult to not play Gallman. Latavius Murray has just been very frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As the Kamara owner, he's been very frustrating for me. Melvin Gordon looked pretty good last game.
Melvin Gordon looks like he's starting to just stranglehold that running back spot.
And Philip Lindsay keeps having little nagging injuries also.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that you can trust Gio Bernard. It is PPR. Harris and Murray, they're not getting a lot of catches, so you kind of want to just knock them down. So I think for me, it's probably Gallman, Gordon, David Johnson.
I'm going to have to agree. Gallman, Gordon, David Johnson, in that order. I think they are all safe. I think they're all going to get you some type of fantasy points, whether that's in PPR, yards, or touchdown production. Surprisingly, Wayne Gallman actually has the most red zone targets, even though he only played 5 games. I don't know if that shows how productive he's been or how bad that Giants offense is.
Yeah, that's difficult to say there.
But they beat the Seahawks, so they can't be that bad, right?
I mean, this is and the football team beat Pittsburgh, so I'm just not even sure what to make of half of this.
Well, in my opinion, I think non-fantasy football relatedness. I think Pittsburgh Steelers are not that great of a football team. I think out of all the undefeated teams, or whichever undefeated team you want to compare them to, it was definitely not nearly as talented. For example, I think last year's undefeated Niners were a much better undefeated team than the Steelers this year, especially because the Steelers, they didn't play anybody that great. I think their hardest team that they played again was the Ravens, and they played them when they were injured.
Yeah, Steelers, they've found ways to win games that they're supposed to win, but the strength of schedule hasn't really been there. And they've had several games that could have went either way. They could have lost to a Ben DiNucci Cowboys game.
They almost did.
That really could have went either way. So, and I'm just sitting here kind of looking through some of this week's. What are a couple sneaky plays for this week? Is there anyone that you like that's just really in a good matchup that if you have them, you're just finding a way to get them into your lineup?
Okay, so somebody I want to talk about a little bit is Nelson Aguilar, actually. Nelson Aguilar, when he's not dropping babies, he's actually scoring a lot of touchdowns. He has the most red zone targets on the Raiders, and that's even including Darren Waller. He has other than Josh Jacobs, he has the most touchdowns on the team, which is incredible when you think about it, because he's not the biggest guy, but he's still finding ways to produce on the football field. He has been a good target for Derek Carr, especially because they don't necessarily have too many receivers other than Henry Ruggs. But Henry Ruggs, other than a Hail Mary touchdown, he hasn't been productive in that offense either. So Nelson Aguilar, I think he's a good matchup and a good person to put in your wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and your flex spot.
Okay. I like that quite a bit, actually. Now, Nader, were you in Scott Fishbowl this year?
I was not.
We're going to have to get you in next year. It's been a pretty competitive year. I've had a relatively good season and didn't have a huge week last week. Not sure if I would have made it through the round or not, but was lucky enough to have a bye. And then this week, the way that the scoring works, you start 11 players and, you have the super flex. You can start any combination of, 2 quarterbacks, 5 wide receivers if you want to, 2 running backs, or 3 wide receivers and 3 running backs and 5 tight ends, or, however you really want to go about it. And this week, in there, the sneaky pickup, I think, let me look at this, because I know we have several listeners that have reached out and said that they're in the Scott Fishbowl, and so actually here's the question I'm going to pose to you. So tight ends get a big bonus in this, and you get bonuses for first downs for every position. And for quarterbacks, you lose points if you have under a 66% completion percentage. But of all the guys that have been hitting the waivers recently, what would be a guy that in that format you think could bring somebody through the home
Oh,
stretch?
all
Is
right.
there a tight end that you like that maybe people aren't looking at?
A tight end, Cole Kmet
Okay.
is going to be a person I think people should be snagging, considering he is playing more time than Jimmy Graham. He doubled his snaps over Jimmy Graham 2 weeks ago, and he almost completely eclipsed Jimmy Graham this week, and is able to get himself a touchdown. I think he is going to be the future of the Bears. So if it is the dynasty format, I suggest highly picking him up. But I think he's starting to eat in to the complete offensive targets that are so limited with Mitchell Trubisky there. But he has been very good in that spot. I think he's going to be a great tight end.
I agree. And, he came out this year, highest draft capital for a tight end. And we know it usually takes a little bit of time for tight ends to settle into the NFL and then start producing. But Kmet, he's a big guy, 6'5", 6'6", something like that. Moves pretty well. So he really could be a tight end going into the future that is going to be one of your every Sunday tight ends that we're talking about. That could be one of the guys that's actually drafted, in the top 6-7 rounds that everyone is wanting for the next few years. Now, while we're still talking about the Bears, are we seeing a mirage with David Montgomery, or are we seeing something actually start to transpire here?
2 touchdowns from David Montgomery. No, that's a flash in the pan right there. I'm not expecting that. I mean, he had 1 touchdown all year before that moment, and he doubled that in one game against which one was it? The Detroit Lions. No, he's not doing that again. He is a volume-based running back. He looks like a broken refrigerator out there. So I'm not. No.
Now, the last 2 games, he has 25 and 27 points. He's got 103 yards and then put up 72 yards. And he has another good spot against Houston. And then the next 2 games are Minnesota and Jacksonville. So he has great matchups going forward. And he could end up winning people some leagues.
He is must start. I mean, he drafted him 4th round, maybe even early 3rd. He is a must-start type player. You have to find a way to put him in your lineup. But I think the 100-yard games to 2 touchdowns, I think you need to lower your expectations a little bit on him. I think he is an 80-yard type player with a potential touchdown upside. So, I mean, while you are starting him, relax.
Okay, so here's the question. If he has pretty decent games going forward and everyone has the hype on him at the end of the season, is he going to be the most overhyped player going into the next year? And if he has good games, where do you think he is going to end up being drafted in redraft leagues?
Second round.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to move up a whole round. I think there's going to be hype on him regardless because he doesn't necessarily have too much competition in the running back place. A lot of people might be banking on a new head coach being there, and that they might instill a little bit more of a ground and pound type system, which may benefit him a little bit more. But if he continues to have these 20-point games, he's going to be in the second round next year for sure.
Okay. How nervous should people be about Alvin Kamara for the playoffs?
A little bit. He's like a step over Zeke. If Kamara's name brand, Zeke is a little bit Walmart brand. I would you're going to start Kamara regardless, and he's going to get his touches, he's going to get his yards, but he's not going to put up that 20 burger to 30 burger that we were used to seeing throughout the whole year. Unfortunately, Taysom Hill has kind of lowered his potential ceiling.
Okay, and last question on the Saints here. What are the chances that we see Drew Brees back for the fantasy playoffs.
I don't think so. When you have, 19 fractured ribs, they're saving him for the playoffs. They clinched it last week. I know they probably want a bye week, but their schedule isn't too hard going throughout the year, and they have a good team, regardless of quarterback position. They got some good wide receivers. They got a good running back. They got a great defense. They're well coached. It's hard to see a NFC team, in my opinion, that's going to take them out.
Okay. And my final question, if we don't get any more in here, was that we have one here. Can the Patriots D keep it warm in LA on a Thursday? Other best option looks like Carolina versus Denver. I think that Carolina's a sneaky play here. I think that I like them over the Patriots, even though that I think the Patriots are going to have a decent week.
The Rams, they're going to put up points. You have to expect that they're going to put up some type of points. So you're kind of hoping for sacks, interceptions, fumbles, which, Goff is prone to do. They don't have the best offensive line. Goff throws interceptions, and he doesn't do the best job taking care of the ball. If you want to bank on interceptions and sacks for your points, you go ahead and start the Rams. Carolina, Denver isn't the best offense, and they're not the best point scoring offense. So with Carolina, you're not necessarily looking for the pick sixes or the fumble recovery sixes like they've been getting lately, but kind of more on stopping Drew Lock from actually putting the ball in the end zone.
Okay, so last question here. On a scale of 1 to Pete Rose, how hard did the Jets throw that game last week?
Pete Rose on steroids. See, the problem is I can't tell if they really tanked that or they're just that stupid. Because at the same time, like on one hand, they're stupid, but on the other hand, they're tanking. Like I don't know.
I had to ask it. It looks like we have one more sneaking in here. Black Mamba 24 PPR. Choose 2 wide receivers to pick up. Gallup, QT, Mims, Higgins, Gabriel Davis. I think it's your first 2.
Yeah, the first 2, Gallup and QT. Gallup, he is a proven talent. So sometimes proven talent and proven talent is going to be a nice pickup to have. And then QT, just off situation. Deshaun Watson likes him, and he's clearly throwing it to him. I like to see him on my lineup.
Well, Nader, appreciate you jumping on, bud. Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Oh, of course. You can find me on Twitter at @TopTierTactics_ or on Instagram at TTT Fantasy Football. But if you guys want to listen to my voice on a daily with my co-host, you can listen to our podcast at Top Tier Tactics Fantasy Football. We mostly joke around a little bit while offering fantasy football. Well, it's 2 guys just kind of having a roast session while talking about fantasy football in between. Other than that, Lucas, it's on your floor.
Hey, we just appreciate you hopping on here last second. We really do. It was last minute, and this was really a great show, and appreciate you hopping on here with us. You can find me at SleeperWire LBB on Sleeper and Twitter. Feel free to reach out whenever. Thanks a lot, guys.
Good luck, everybody.